Hello and welcome to the Grown Black Woman Success Podcast, a conversation about the joys and challenges that come with achieving success, all from a grown black woman's perspective. I'm your host, Leslie Denman. Let's get this conversation started. While I know it has been a minute since we've talked, and you would not believe the things that have happened since our last conversation. I mean, things that have just really caused me to pause and say, what? But nevertheless, that is a conversation for another day. Today, I want to talk to you about the 7 deadly C's that will hinder your success. The 7 deadly C's that will hinder your success. Now, I can tell you right now that if you cannot say amen, go ahead and say ouch. So grab your favorite beverage, grab your pen, get your notepad, come with an open heart and a teachable spirit, and let's address these 7 deadly C's. Now, these C's are in no particular order, but they are all, because they all really carry their own weight. Well, the first C that will hinder your success is complaining. Complaining is defined as the expression of dissatisfaction or annoyance about something. Complaining about your life, complaining about your job, complaining about the people on your job, complaining about your spouse, complaining about your significant other, complaining about being single, complaining about being married, complaining about your weight, complaining about your hair, just complaining. See, the thing about complaining is that you don't really notice it right away, but little by little, if left unchecked, someone could say good morning, and honey, you'll find a reason to complain about that. Well, I don't know what's so good about it. Come on now, complaining. That is one of the 7 deadly C's that will hinder your success. Another deadly C, comparing. Defined as the estimate, measure, or note of the similarity or dissimilarity between. Now, as women, we are so guilty of this. We will compare shoes, hair, title, spouses, shoe sizes, homes, cars, weight, economic status, educational status. Honey, we will measure ourselves so that we can position ourselves as better than, or we compare ourselves and get down on ourselves and feel less than. That C of comparison is deadly. Now, the next C, competing. Defined as striving against one another to gain or win something. Now, I must admit that I have a very competitive spirit, but I believe it to be in a healthy way. See, I've been an athlete pretty much all my life. And so, yes, I am very competitive. If we are at the start line, my goal is to finish first and to finish strong. You know, when it's unhealthy, it's not about winning. It is about making somebody else look bad, or making somebody else feel bad, or making yourself feel better than them. That unhealthy competition. You know what I mean? Now let's talk about the next deadly C, confusion. When you are not clear and you don't know who you are or what you've been called to do, that's confusion. When you're always caught up in some type of drama, that is confusion. See, when you don't set or respect boundaries, you invite confusion into your life and your situation. You don't know why certain things keep happening to you. You can't really focus when you're confused. The next sin that'll hinder your success, criticism, defined as the expression or disapproval of someone or something based on perception, faults, or mistakes. Now, this is another one that has hindered me for a while, I will admit. I was a very critical person because I could discern things about people that I did not necessarily have to express. You know, there's a difference between discerning something and expressing it, because most of the time it could come across as being critical, right? So sometimes it's just better to keep your little critical thoughts to yourself. Honey, if you asked me, I was going to share just what I thought. And then I realized just how deadly that C is. I began to dig deeper into why I had a critical spirit. And what it all boiled down to with me was trust or a lack thereof, especially if that person portrays some characteristics of another individual that hurt me or just those triggers that happen. And that is a very deadly sin. Now let's move on to the next deadly C. Now brace yourself. You ready? Control. Woo, if you can't say amen, girl, say ouch. Now, control is defined as the power to influence or direct people's behavior or the course of events. How are you in the area of control? So now this is another one. Like I said, this is one that I struggled with, and I'm just being totally transparent. So don't go judge me as nothing, honey. We all been through something. Like my mama said, don't start acting such a much, girl. Listen, I dealt with control, and I am happy to say that I've been delivered. Okay. That spirit of control was just that I needed. It was a defense mechanism more than it was for anything else. You're trying to control situations and things just so you wouldn't get hurt. Keeping people at a distance so you wouldn't get hurt, trying to control the relationship so that it would go the way you need it, so that you could feel safe and secure. All of those things were just it's a deadly C, and it would hinder any success or progress that you would have in the relationship, or even on your job when you feel like it can't get done unless you do it, because they're not going to do it the way you do it, and all of those things. And let me tell you something, if you think that it's that important and that you are that important, die and see what happens. Honey, control is a deadly C, and it will hinder your success every time. The last of the deadly C's is complacency, defined as showing smug or uncritical satisfaction with oneself or one's achievement. Someone who has become overly content. See, when you become too comfortable and you just accept that this is the way that your life is, and you don't strive for more, or you act a certain way and use the reasoning of you just keeping it real and this is how you are and this is how you've always been, that's deadly. That means you're not striving for anything else. You're not trying to better yourself. And that is a deadly thing, because life is always evolving and we should be evolving. And that spirit and that mindset of complacency will hinder your success. So recap real quick, the 7 deadly C's that will hinder your success: complaining, comparing, competing, confusion, criticism, control, and complacency. So how do you get delivered from these deadly C's? I am so glad you asked, girl. So let's talk about them one by one. Rather than complaining, try this. When you sense that complaining spirit rising up in you, arrest it immediately. Think of 3 things that you're grateful for, and I would challenge you to say them out loud. But whatever you do, check that complaining spirit and bring it under subjection. Just simply say, now, why are you complaining? You're complaining about this job, but do you remember when you didn't have a job? Do you remember when you applied for the job? How about you shift it and God, thank you for this job. Things may not be going the way that I would like for them to, but I'm grateful for the job. I'm grateful for the employment. I'm grateful for the income. I'm grateful. If it's your children, they're getting on your last nerve and you find yourself complaining, God, I'm grateful that they're happy and they're healthy. And while they may be displaying some behavior that I'm not excited about, I'm glad that they're mine. I'm glad you blessed me with them. And I know that this too shall pass. Honey, you've got to you got to change your thinking. You got to speak life into your situation, but stop complaining. Now, when you are tempted to compare yourself to others, choose to get curious instead. Ask yourself, now, why am I comparing myself? What is it about them that I desire? If you look at someone and, oh, she thinks she's cute, get curious about that. Why does that thought come up? Is it that you don't think you're pretty? Do you wish you had that confidence, that style, that flair? What is it? Get curious about it. and think, okay, how can I portray that level of confidence? And you know what? I'll never be as smart as she is. Get curious about what they have done to achieve that level of success. Okay, let's talk about the next one. What do you do about the deadly sin of competing? Well, what has worked for me is to look for ways to collaborate. Look for ways to work together to create a win-win rather than focusing on a win-lose. Now, this has been very beneficial to me because, again, I'm very competitive. And so sometimes I have to check myself, be like, you know what, Leslie, this doesn't have to be a win-lose kind of thing. Look for ways to collaborate to create a win-win. Okay, try that one on for size if you're wrestling with that deadly sea of competition. Now, the deadly sea of confusion. Girlfriend, is simple. Get clear. And sometimes that may require that you get still and you get quiet. See, I learned at a young age that God is not the author of confusion. My father used to always say that. So whenever I was around people that caused a bunch of confusion, I would remove myself immediately because that means that God is not there. And if God is not there, that means the enemy is there. And I don't want any parts of that. So whenever you feel yourself being confused about certain things, decisions to make and what to do next and all of that, just get still and get quiet and pray for clarity. Now let's talk about the deadly sea of criticism. When you find yourself being overly critical, become conscious of it. Conscious of where the criticism is really coming from and why. Does this person trigger something for you? Become conscious of the thoughts and the emotions that you're experiencing and ask yourself, why am I so critical of this situation? Why am I so critical of this person? Ask yourself why and then listen for the answer. And if you really want to challenge yourself, ask God, why do I have such a critical spirit? Now, you know we have to do something about that deadly sea of control, right? You know we have to address that. Now, I'm going to say it just like this. Girl, relinquish it. Let it go. Because at the root of control, at least for me, it was nothing more than fear. Fear that if you don't get this right, that something bad is going to happen. Fear that if you let them get too close, this is going to happen. Fear that if you show people your true self, they may not like you. See, the weight of control is really too heavy for many of us to carry. And that's why we're angry, we're frustrated, and really some of us are lonely. So girlfriend, let it go. And if you really think that, you know, the world can go on without you, as I said, just die and see what happens. Anyway, you know what I mean. So to get delivered from this deadly sin of complacency is really simple. Change. You can't expect to live a fulfilled life being the same person day in and day out. Life is about growth and change. And here's the thing, you can't really change yourself because if you could, you would have done it by now. That's part of the reason you've been so complacent. You've tried certain things and maybe you've done it quietly, didn't tell anyone, but you have to solicit the help of someone or something higher than yourself to change. And that is why my prayer every day to God is to help me be better today than I was on yesterday. Whew. Okay, now that was a lot, okay? So let's just breathe for a minute and let all of this sink in. We're talking about the 7 deadly seas that will hinder your success. And I want you to think about your life and the success that you desire. Can you see areas in your life where one or more of these deadly seas are present and operating? Can you see how it has hindered your ability to think clearly, your ability to evolve and change? Can you see where it's keeping you in this place of comparison and criticism? Now, you can shift that if you set the intention, and this will require a conscious effort. So set the intention today and implement the necessary actions to eliminate these deadly seeds. You deserve to experience the success that you want in your life. But you're going to have to address these 7 deadly seeds. Listen, we have some of the most amazing conversations, and sometimes good things must come to an end. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to comment and share this podcast. And until next time, chin up, shoulders back. Now strut, girl. You know you got it like that.